are these people?
So
Let's speak on
I
someone
pulled
who
this
deserves
story.
more
Yes,
attention.
very much so.
There's lots of people who are way better people to talk to than Vouch.
So you're probably wondering, Assange files purged. What Assange files would have been purged? Well, let's get into it. So Assange visitors renew their request for CIA to purge and destroy the files on them. So this is from ScheerPost, right? Kevin Gosztola, friend of the show. Attorneys and journalists who visited WikiLeaks found
has a new
Julian
book out,
Assange.
by the way. Kevin
Does
Gosztola
he?
has a book out.
Fantastic.
An Assange book.
I'll take a copy. So WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, while he was living under political asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy, as we know, amended their lawsuit against the CIA for allegedly spying on them. The complaint, filed in the Southern District of New York, now even more explicitly seeks an injunction against the CIA to prevent the agency from utilizing in any way or revealing to any third party the content of material seized from the plaintiffs, who are all U.S. citizens. It also asked the court to order the CIA to purge and destroy all such materials from their files, please.
Do you want some backstory on this, or does it go into backstory?
I actually think it's pretty concise. So if you want to interject a little.
Okay, so really quickly, this won't take long. What this lawsuit is about is, while Julian Assange was being held in the Ecuadorian embassy, illegally and arbitrarily detained, according to the UN, in the Ecuadorian embassy, all of his visitors were spied upon, and the way that that took place was a company called UC Global, which is a Spanish security firm, was initially hired,
stored on the devices, right? Supposedly copied the information stored on all devices.
Well, there's a hold on. So UC Global is a Spanish security firm that was initially hired by the government of Ecuador to do security for the embassy and for the president's children and things like that. Very soon after Trump was elected, they were co-opted by Mike Pompeo and the CIA and essentially turned into a spying operation against Julian Assange, which means that all of his visitors, journalists, friends, doctors, lawyers, all of those people who came to visit him during his time in the Ecuadorian embassy were spied upon in many different ways. They had their electronic devices taken and copied. They had their paperwork taken and copied. Their IDs were copied. Their conversations were spied on. They went as far as to have microphones in the women's restrooms. So a group of them have gotten together and are now suing the CIA. There's a couple different cases going on. There's also a case going on in Spain. Mike Pompeo has been subpoenaed to testify in that. He's trying to dodge that subpoena. He still hasn't gone to testify in that because he also had plans to either kidnap or assassinate Julian Assange. So it's this is a whole thing. And so there are a couple different people in the US who are suing the CIA, and that's what this article is talking about.
So on January 20th, Judge John Kolf, I want to say, held a proceeding where Richard Roth, attorney for the plaintiffs, was urged to change the complaint so it separated the, quote, cause of action sought against the CIA from the action sought against Pompeo, UC Global, and Morales. Much of the reasoning has to do with the Bivens doctrine that allows citizens to pursue monetary damages against former U.S. government officials when their constitutional rights are validated. The updated complaint spells out more concretely that they are confident if the court allows the lawsuit to proceed, they believe they will succeed against the CIA in establishing that Fourth Amendment rights violations occurred, right? So, irreparable harm against the CIA, the lawsuit contends, privileged communications. It's essentially unlawful
they
seizure
illegally
of
spied on American citizens.
Warrantless. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, in a multitude of ways. Like I said, their electronic devices were taken and cloned. Paperwork was taken and copied. All of that stuff. And this is something that always brings me back to the fact that people will say, "Oh, well, he should just come to the United States and face a trial." Please tell me how this man gets a fair trial when the CIA was literally spying on the conversations with his legal team. I would like somebody to explain that to me.
Attorney Damian Williams and Assistant U.S. Attorney Jean-David Barnea have until February 17th to respond to the injunction the plaintiffs are explicitly seeking against the CIA. So stay tuned on those dates. You brought some stuff for me this evening.
Stefania!
So from Il Fatto Quotidiano. I hope my Italian's doing well there.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I know, right? So
Better than I would do.
I'll try to cliff note this because the article went in depth. We'll put links to descriptions for all the articles in the
And
doobly-doo.
also, if you're not following Stefania Maruzzi, you need to be. She is one of the most, I think, in my opinion, and that's just my opinion, but I think she's one of the best journalists working today. Period. End of story.
Okay. Um. So Sweden destroyed a substantial part of its documents on Julian Assange almost 6 years after we unearthed that the British authorities at the Crown Prosecution Service destroyed key emails on the WikiLeaks founder. We can now report that the Swedish Prosecution Authority also destroyed a large part of the documentation as Assange's life hangs in the balance, while Britain and Sweden finally opened an investigation into the destruction of documents. I mean, it took them long enough to end the investigation on the bogus rape charges that people lied about.
There were no charges.
Okay.
No charges. Just allegations.
Gotcha.
There were never any charges, ever. Never charges. People always say that.
Glad to be corrected. I also love how every article has to put in like the entire life story of Julian Assange every time, you know,
because they've made it so convoluted that you can't just explain one thing, because that leads back to another thing, which leads back to another thing. And it's, you know.
Yeah. So what was destroyed? A substantial portion of the documents on Assange were destroyed by the Swedish Prosecution Authority, which investigated him for rape in a criminal investigation, opened and closed 3 times between 2010 and 2019. So the destroyed materials were a correspondence between the SPA and the Crown Prosecution Service, which was providing the SPA with support on the case since Assange was under investigation in Sweden, but had been in London since 2010. So, you know, little international correspondence.
The Sweden stuff has been thoroughly debunked by Professor Nils Melzer, who is the former UN Special Rapporteur on Torture. He investigated it quite thoroughly. He's fluent in Swedish. So he was able to look at all of the original documentation, go through all the stuff. And it was an obvious stitch up. It was an obvious attempt for Sweden to help the United States in their extradition attempts. And there's actually emails that had been released from the US to Sweden where we're telling them basically, don't you dare get cold feet.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so the highly animalist handling of the Swedish case by prosecutor Marianne, got another Marianne. I'm starting to not like these. And it's going to go on my list of gins as well, you know. Resulted in justice for no one, contributed to the devastation of Assange's health, cost British taxpayers at least 13.2 million pounds to keep the Ecuadorian embassy under siege by Scotland Yard from 2012 to 2015. Right. So that's apparently
that's right. Just 2012 to 2015, y'all.
So she's seriously implicated.
Holy shit.
The fact that documents are destroyed by the SPA authority has just surfaced thanks to our lengthy FOIA litigation, and comes almost 6 years after the same FOIA litigation unearthed that key documents were destroyed by the CPS. It is now clear that both of the authorities handling the Swedish case, the SPA and the CPS, destroyed a large part of their email exchanges. But why?
Weird. Why would they do that?
What did these documents contain? And on whose instructions were these materials destroyed? Now more than ever, some sort of explanation is urgently needed, considering that the U.S. is currently acting through the CPS itself in the extradition of proceeding against Julian Assange. So, next, the investigation work has allowed us to find the answer to one of the key questions around the Swedish case. Why did prosecutor Marianne Nye, who reopened the rape case in 2010 after Stockholm's chief prosecutor Eva Finn had immediately dismissed it because in her judgment, the suspect conduct disclosed no crime at all, refused to question Assange in London for 6 years. So documents obtained in 2015 by the author of the article from the SPA under FOIA revealed that it was the CPS service specifically, Mr. Paul Close, lawyer with the CPS Special Crime Division, division responsible for prosecuting high-profile cases, which advised the Swedish prosecution authority against the only legal strategy that could have brought the case to a rapid resolution, namely questioning Julian Assange in London rather than insisting on extradition to Sweden simply to question him, right? So like, no, we're keeping him here.
And this is also funny because not only did they neglect or refuse to question him on this, but they also refused to question him about the Russiagate stuff, which he openly said, listen, if you want to come talk to me, I will absolutely cooperate. I will 100% talk to you about, what's going on with the Russia stuff. And it's weird. They never did that. It's very strange.
So, Estelle Dehaan, right? Specialist representing us together with Jennifer Robinson, asks this for the FOIA specialist, right? And the FOIA special replied from the CPS. They claim to have no way of knowing what was lost when they destroyed the documentation. It have never produced a written policy justifying the destruction of documents. So just bye-bye. And they're gone.
Yeah, whoopsie daisy.
Whoopsie
Hate it when that happens. Yeah.
At least it wasn't a camera that went out on this one. So been trying to obtain documents since 2015. The Swedish prosecution authority exchanged between 7,200 and 9,600 pages of correspondence. Over the last 8 years of our 4-year battle, we obtained just 551 pages from the CPS and 1,373 pages from the SPA.
So what is it, like 1,900 pages?
Yeah, like what's that? That's not
out
even
of 9,600.
Less than 1%. In like, right? Is my math right?
I don't know. I'm terrible at math, but
me too.
This is ridiculous.
Like.
And like as Stefania says, they've been trying to get these documentation. This is why I say she's one of the best journalists working today. She has literally been in the trenches of this, not just with Sweden, not just with UK, but also with like Ecuador and the United States. And I mean, she's been trying to get information through FOIA requests from multiple different governments for like a decade. I mean, she's relentless.
So,
and she has a book out too. Everybody check out her book.
Marianne wrote, we would have been able to handle this matter in a better way if we had been informed when SIC the decision to give TV4 the correspondence. Even better if it had been deleted immediately after reading. Like it's
that was from a very embarrassing email.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. In discussing this matter, her associate wrote, Marianne and I file all A-related emails in special folders not available to or traceable for anybody but ourselves. God, that sounds secrecy. Real ethical. Mm-hmm. God. So in March 2017, Marianne did delete at least one email received from the FBI. Those were the months in which the CIA was so furious with WikiLeaks for publishing the CIA files, aka Vault 7, that they would later devise plans to kill Assange. Was that in that email? What was in the email? Like, why did she destroy it?
I'm left to suspect that probably yes. You know what I mean?
God. Like, I mean, luckily I have stuff on the soundboard for this.
We're fucked.
God.
It works there.
So luckily you also brought us some good news.
I did bring a little bit of good news. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You want to take this one?
Yeah. So Ola Benny is a friend and colleague. He's kind of a digital rights activist guy. I mean, he's like a computer. I'm reluctant to use the word hacker. But he's really into like the digital the digital rights stuff. So also a friend and associate of Julian Assange's, and was conveniently also arrested, which we don't hear about this very often because he's obviously not as high profile as Julian is. I mean, I've been talking about it for years, but most people don't know who he is. But he was arrested in Ecuador on April 11th, 2019, same day as Julian Assange was pulled from the Ecuadorian embassy in London. And he has been in an ongoing ridiculous. I mean, honestly, you guys, this stuff in Ecuador, the Ecuadorian court system is a fucking joke. The way that this has been handled and just the numerous, I mean, the delays and them coming completely unprepared, the prosecution coming completely unprepared for court, and the questions that they would ask. And just seriously, you can go back through, you can follow Ola Benny on Twitter. It's at OLABINI. It's just at his name. And he has documented the most of it throughout the years. But it's seriously been a complete shit show. But he has now, we got to win, you guys. He has now been found not guilty. And it's done. It's over. I mean, at least this part of it is over. That's not to say that they won't come back for him for something else, but I think that he has been, unfortunately, the way that they wanted to use him, they were effective in doing so. They destroyed his life for nearly 4 years. And this was part of, I mean, we know that this was part of the way that they intended to deal with Julian Assange, was to also go after people close to him. And that's exactly what this was. And they destroyed his life for nearly 4 years. But it seems to be, at least for now, this particular court case is over and he won.
Okay.
So a little bit of good news for once, you guys.
Fantastic.
We got one. I know.
Fantastic.
We got one. We got a win.
Please clap.
I'll take it, you guys. Like I tell people all the time, sometimes you have to even invent your own wins, like just make them up to make yourself feel better. We didn't even have to invent this one. It's a real one. His case has been dismissed. It's done. So it's a win. I'm very happy for him. He shouldn't have had to go through what he's gone through. But it seems that it's over, at least this part of it. Hopefully they don't fuck with him again.
Anthony Malecki with $2. Like and share the stream, peasants.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fuck.
With his $2. That's not very a royal decree for $2, but you know, I'll give it to you. So I think that's all of them so far. Hopefully I didn't miss one.
Yes, John, I know that hacker is a loose term. I'm just reluctant to use it because it's used as a pejorative against Julian Assange very often.
Cabela with speaking as crocodiles in the
my
chat.
Friends. I love Hardlands. Go support them, subscribe, share all their stuff.
Yeah, they had on Supreme recently.
Yeah, they also, I think they decided, I think it was David Swanson, maybe today or yesterday. Was it David Swanson? Yeah. Maybe. They've been having, like, they've been doing a really good job of trying to get all the speakers for the Rage rally.
Yeah. So, all right.